This is the Sacred Knowing of Is video series, interview number 6 with Tisziji Muñoz. I had some questions for you regarding chapters 58 through 65. From chapter 58, you write, "In all societies, cultures, and groups, there are those to be found who choose to incarnate amongst those whom they are to serve and help towards spiritual improvement, advancement, purification, and liberation. My question is, how can one identify or seek out those amongst us that are here to serve?"
Well, you're born to them. Right? The more immediate people are your family. And you have payments to deal with in those situations. You have relatives you can be close to, relatives that you have to be far away from. See? Just because you're blood doesn't mean you like each other. Okay. Blood payments are very complicated and very painful in some cases. You are brought together because of hate and destruction as much as love and affection. So you start with your blood family, and you start to, after that, with your blood relatives, and you start with, after that, your friends, see, physically speaking. See, material friends, material relatives, and material family. You start there. See, and you work your way through that, and you might find just a few people you are able to serve, or maybe one, just one. Out of all of them, you find just one being you can serve, or one being who likes you, who recognizes you and gives you the right time of day. The rest of them don't care about you. Now, if you have the opposite scenario, you're in real trouble when everybody likes you and they're suffocating you with affection, and that can be a payment, because you can't breathe with that. You don't know who you are when you have too much attention. That's a payment. Just as too little attention, it's also a payment. It's supposed to teach you something that you have to balance out. See? So we're talking about how to properly balance out these kinds of things. Well, next you have the spiritual family. So let's say you have 1% of recognition in the blood family, and then all of a sudden you're evolving and you're thinking about the spiritual, and all of a sudden you start realizing you actually have a spiritual family. I don't mean the church people, the circle of church friends. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I was brought up and raised in the Catholic Church. I didn't have that many friends and people there, outside of my family. We're talking about a spiritual family, a whole different level of recognition and resonance. We say the best of your friends, but no, it's even beyond the best of your friends. We're talking about spirit, in this case, spiritual family. And the spiritual family deals with what we call progress and stepping up. Not hanging out and doing the same thing, talking the same nonsense with people who are, you're making your friends. That means people who are more like you. And so because you have this likeness, you care for each other, and well, we are friends, we have a lot of affinity about certain karmas. That's not the spiritual family. It's a learning and stepping up process that has no end and no bounds. So you begin with a spiritual family, and then you have spiritual relatives, and you have spiritual friends. So it broadens, but it's another dimension of what starts out with the blood. And then before long you start feeling, well, you don't necessarily feel the same resonance that you did when you were young and in the blood family, where you wanted people to like you, and because you liked them and they liked you, this was a special connection. That disappears. Okay? That's based upon an egoic understanding of what the heart nature is. Once you get beyond that, you start seeing that you go beyond like and dislike. Then it becomes more of an evolution into service. And you just want to share heart to heart with peeps. Doesn't matter who they are. All peeps you start seeing affinity with. It's not about like, it's not about preference, not about familiarity anymore at all. You know that you're connected with the universe. So then it becomes the universe. Heart as the universe. The universe is the heart. And that's what evolution, that's what the spiritual family upgrades you into realizing. Your relationship to the total, not just to the particular and what you like. That's self-limitation.
From chapter 59 you write, lower spirits wallow in the concerns of the flesh, suffering, the self-filth of sinfulness. My question is, what exactly do you mean by self-filth of sinfulness?
What do you think I mean by self-filth? What is meant by self-filth? What? Well, we know what the self is. It's limitation. Self-indulgence, limitation. It's like making yourself less, being less than you're capable of. So, giving yourself a cheap shot, that's self, right? Keeping yourself down. So, delusion, not understanding the truth of the greatness of life and the greatness of spirit. So self is a cheap shot, and it's a form of filth. I mean, it's unacceptable. See, it's cheap. Self means spiritual cheapness. See, when we're talking about understanding what is given to everybody as a form of grace, it's huge, it's big. So we want self stuff, just for your little self, you know. See, so self is a form of filth. It's dirty. I don't mean sexual dirt, anything like this. It's psychic dirt. See, selfishness is dirt. It's filth. See, and when you start becoming gracious and bigger in your heart and giving more generously, properly to the right peeps in the right way, then you start feeling the lightness and the beauty of what it is. You start feeling more connection. See. So when we're talking about self-filth of sinfulness and missing the point, that means avoiding, what you're afraid of. See? So self-filth of sinfulness means being small-minded, see? Being ignorant and avoiding the reality and the light of life itself, the bigger picture of things. See? Choosing to be just hiding under a rock. That's filth. And that's sinfulness. That means you missed the whole point of your life. It's to be radiant, to be huge, see? Useful. See, productive, see, gracious, generous, see, creative. So, I think the answer stated clearly.
As a practitioner, should one remain neutral in regards to witnessing that which would be considered sinful?
Neutral? Well, life is sinful in a manner of speaking, but then spirit is neutral in nature. See, spirit doesn't care about what other peeps are doing, particularly, no. It cares about what you make of it. See? What you make of it. Let's say the really spiritual are in prayer. I'm just being, let's say, very specific right now. The neutral are in a high, what means a high state of consciousness. Not detached and, let's say, avoiding reality. It's understanding reality. See? So when you understand the karma of the world well enough, see, in terms of why people have to be the way they have to be and why they do what they do out here, which means having a good understanding of the machinery of human nature from an unenlightened viewpoint, where people are, by virtue of like tendencies and programs, they have to be against themselves, they have to be against each other, they have to destroy themselves, they have to destroy each other. When we understand that as machinery based upon ignorance, where people don't know what's at risk, and they don't care about what's at risk, then we say, yeah, there's peace. You have peace because you understand, right? You have peace. You are neutral. Doesn't mean you're ignorant, and it doesn't mean you're avoiding anything, because from the neutral and the wisdom of the neutral, you can approach anybody, see, or relate to anybody, and give them the truth about what it is. Say, you don't need to be that way. That's the truth. There's more to this than you're being, or more to this than you're being used to be. You're being used by programs. You're being used by tendencies, you're being used by lower spirits. We're talking about just programs, energies. You're being used by ignorance to be a certain way, and you bring pain to yourself and other peeps, unnecessarily. And so the neutral is the key then. Right? When you look at the picture of the Buddha or someone like that, you see neutrality personified. See, at peace, it means peacefulness. A heart in stillness. And that's good practice. It doesn't matter what your religion is, a heart in stillness. We're born to be hearts of peace. And minds of action at the same time. Okay, so neutral is important to be neutral so we can see what we need to see as a witness, everything high and low, and understand it properly. And then sinfulness then becomes not what people are doing, because without doing what you have to do, you can't evolve. So even sinfulness is a necessary step along the path for people, like the military is a necessary step. And killing is a necessary step. How are you going to know what it is unless you know what it is? And you know it's not good. How are you going to know it's not good unless you know what it is? So you have to engage in experience to know for yourself what's good or what's bad for you, and then progress from there if you're a progressive type, or regress from there and get more deeper into the darkness and then have to pay with or for what comes with that.
From chapter 60, you write, any one form or being representing the truth must refer to and be the transparency of the clear and pure beingness pervading and in its splendid brilliance outshining all things and beings, as it is the absolute and transcendent light of lights. My question is what you're saying referring to or related to humility in some way?
What I'm talking about in rather, let's say, big terms, is silence, and our nature as silence. See, in the space of silence and the grace of silence, we are completely silent in nature. See? And that's our gift of spirit, being silent. But we don't act like we know that, or we are responsible to that. We don't act that way. See? As spirits, we should be more true to silence than noise. As spirits. See? We should be more true to grace than we are to face, glamour, flesh, illusion, masking. We have to be true to the heart of what it is. As much as we are true to the humor of face and, glamour and appearance. It's functional. We do appear. But we are not limited to what we appear to be, because appearances alone are not the truth of the being itself. You can look at a being and judge them racially, and that would be a lie, see, in many cases. You can judge them economically, and that too would be a lie. When you understand religious roots and, let's say, the conscious poverty of somebody like Christ, who's a very simple individual, it seemed. Very simple, very clear, and very advanced. See? So he knew. He put himself in a position to be an example for peeps, but was it just for that time, or was that example really for all time, for all peeps? See? And then that would be what is true. See? What is true then is, the truth is like for all times, for all peeps, the same basic reality. Not say, oh, well, I did that yesterday, today I'm going to do that. Well, that's changing, but that's possible, that's dynamic, but what is true? What is true is we are spirits, first. We enter the body, we inhabit the body, and then we're going to leave the body, and we're going to put the body down, or the body's going to be taken from us, and it's going to be put down because of the nature of the earth and the forces out here, and our payment to time, well, our, let's say, debt to time, okay, and the energy of time, and that includes the matter, and it has to be put back where we got it from. We got it from the earth, we got to put it back to earth. And then we as spirits that came in to borrow that, to use it for a mission and a purpose, have to go back to where we came from, see, to our origins, outside of the body and outside of this dimension, back to the spiritual world. And we cannot avoid that. Okay? You don't have to believe it. See it around you. Where have the spirits gone of the people you know who have passed? See, where are they? Into nothing? Zero? No, that's an appearance. It appears to be zero. We appear to be zero when we go to sleep and we enter the unconscious, but are we? Is that true? Or is there something that is like beyond our knowing, see, that is incomprehensible to us until we awaken to our, let's say, incomprehensible nature, to be able to be open to what it is and accept it for what it is, truth and fact.
From chapter 60 you write, there is only divine life. there is in truth no end to life, but change, progression, and liberation. Death is a word invented, accepted, and empowered by human beings to paradoxically create fear, the ultimate spiritual disempowerment. My question is, are you saying that the fear of death is really a fear of change? And if so, would the practice of embracing and accepting change in everyday life be beneficial for overcoming one's fear of death?
Could be. But fear is already death. See? It's already death. See? Fear is already dying. See? Fear is already contraction, crystallization, in a manner of speaking. Fear is, in some cases, already disgrace, falling from grace. It's fear. See, not knowing. Why don't you know? What's there to be afraid of? You're afraid of God? Are you knowing the truth? You're afraid of knowing anything true? You're afraid of spirit? Are you afraid of your own freedom? Are you afraid of being without your body and without your family and all your security programs? Are you afraid of being security-less? Huh? Yeah, fear of not having something because you haven't merged with the understanding of the spiritual, which is everything already. It's the total. It's the fullness of emptiness, which is a paradox. So we're talking about a realization then of our nature as empty fullness. The fullness of emptiness and the emptiness of fullness. That's a mixing of the heavenly, the divine, and what isn't.
From chapter 60 you write, "Be free of self-limitation and be the free, liberated self of all beings." My question is, would you say that confidence and courage are needed to go beyond the comfort of self-limitation? And if so, do you have any recommendations for those who might lack those traits, who are trying to progress spiritually?
You need to awaken. See? You just need to awaken. You need knowing. See? You need knowing. See? That's what you need to open to, is awakening. See? And knowing. You have to know what other is and what self is, and you have to know what they are as a certain kind of dilemma. See? So you have to know that duality relative to self-otherness and other-selfness is a problem, self-created problem. And it is also a device, a conventional device, to enable you to function relative to other beings who have the same agreements and the same issues and the same barriers and the same problems. See, the same karmas, the same consequences. See, the same fears, the same ambitions and expectations. That is to say, the same human nature. See? And what we need is awakenment beyond that. That nightmare of human nature and some kind of awareness of transcendence, see, as to where that human nature comes from and whether or not the source of what that is more than what it appears to be. Is the divine appearance, or is the divine beyond appearance and the source of all appearance? Is the divine the appearance of what disappears? Is the divine the appearance of itself, which transcends all appearance and disappearance? And then we're talking about the divine as being the isness. We're talking about God as isness, the is reality. See? The formless presence of the is reality of itself. We have to see if that's what we're able to conceive. If we're able to perceive that, and if we're able to realize that, in fact, and in truth, as an ongoing condition, realization, or way of being. And so the recommendation is to wake up and know for yourself.
From chapter 61 you write, "Lower spirits have less choice in the matter of reincarnation as to the type of body or lessons to be learned than a spirit well on the path of progression does." My question is, do human beings typically reincarnate into human bodies in their next lifetime? Or could it be possible or in some cases likely, that they would reincarnate into a different non-human body?
Well, we are basically human beings by, let's say, the normal, conventional, I guess you might say, perception and assumption. So we can acknowledge that we're human beings, but what is that exactly? So that is Earth. We are human embodiments, individualized embodiments, different versions of Earthness. See, Earth nature. What is Earth nature? Earth nature is solar systemal nature. What is solar systemal nature? Well, solar systemal nature is galaxial nature. Okay. What is galaxial nature? So we have to say, well, galaxial nature is universal nature. So we are basically universal nature. So that we are all things and all beings, sort of like in miniature here, but we're not willing to, or we don't have the heart to accept that. So we don't have the heart to accept that we are all beings already and that we are, let's say, kindred spirits. We don't have the heart to do that ordinarily until, we transcend our selfness, our selfishness. Until we extend beyond our, let's say, barrier and self-imprisonment of selfishness, we can't love other peeps. You cannot properly love other peeps from fear. So, comments?